Kia ora, I'm Sarah Smuts Kennedy. I'm an artist and I'm also the vision holder of a project that I was invited to imagine in 2014, 2016 actually, which I didn't name, but I created an opportunity for us to collectively imagine something that we could create together centred around bees. And it was actually named For the Love of Bees by our beekeeper at the time. And I'm just going to leap into, because I've only got 6 minutes, to kind of bring you on a really fast journey, but really orientate around where we feel we have the most opportunity to create Whakaora. And I'm starting with leaping into the first regenerative organic a teaching space that we were gifted to activate in Auckland, which was between the two council buildings on Wellesley Street. And this particular photograph that I've chosen was one of our really, the dear to my heart projects that emerged out of this question of how can we imagine together, what can we cause together that would have us live in a world that we loved. And this was based around a project called Rahina Hora, and a community called Awhina Mai Tātou Katoa, blessed by Ngāti Whātua, were able to bring Rungwa Gardens into the city. And this was the unveiling of the Po. But that particular site, and I'm hoping this is going to work, yep, basically emerged another opportunity with another, our imagining caused another organisation to imagine what they could cause. And in this instance, it was the City Rail Link. And they came to us and they said, if we gifted you a site at the top of Simon Street, what could you do with that? And together we had already caused a community of passionate people who were thinking in an aligned way. And together we decided that it would be amazing to cause an urban farm. There were no farms in Auckland at that stage. There were community gardens. There had been Kaumana, but it was functioning as a community farm, as a community garden at that stage, no longer really as a farm. And our question to ourselves is, could our love for each other and place accelerate behaviour change in a ways that would really embed wellness back into the heart of our communities. So that is the site when we got it in 2018, and a year later, that's what it looked like. We were selling produce off that space within 3 months, and now that's actually quite an old photograph. It is now quite substantially more developed. In fact, that's actually one before we've even got the glass house in this. This is actually pretty much just the year after we started. We've now been there almost 4 years. And you can see it literally is it's just a shop that burnt down. It's 500 square metres, and off that 500 square metres, we have caused transformation at a really massive scale. And that massive scale obviously starts in a little place with people. And so I'm showing you here Levi Brindenson Hall, a beautiful artist who did a course with me, learned how to sow seeds, grew his own vegetables in his own garden, then stepped into learning how to be our farmer, and is now actually mentoring farms all across New Zealand as part of our wider program that's developed called the Earth Workers Program, where we are developing capacity within individuals to imagine their projects as places for centering well-being, and we call them centres of regenerative learning. We sell on our, what we call OMG as our models. We have to have somewhere to inspire people, where we prove our concept, and that activates as a volunteer space, a wellbeing space, but also an educational platform and data collection centre. So we now are feeding this winter 43 people a week buy vegetables from us, from our site, and that pays for the wages of our farmers. So it's a truly sustainable operation. But on the site, we also, there's one of the people who come every week, no plastic. We do not package our food. You have to bring your own packaging. This is seriously low carbon food production, and it's embedding something that we've talked about climate change today. We really need to talk about biodiversity. And then we're also facing a food crisis, an affordable nutrition food crisis right across our country. and in fact the planet. So this attends to those things. This is also a photograph of us teaching on our spaces, and that's really our primary focus now, is teaching. And what can these sites do? They embed all these things. They are the lowest cost for the greatest impact that you can provide. They do create food and security food and nutrition security. We don't just sell lettuces because they don't really have a lot of nutrition in them. So we're really focused on the most nutrition per square metre we can possibly create. Carbon drawdown, cooling of microclimates, biodiversity, community building, water conservation, nutrient recovery, land rehabilitation, air quality and optimism. And, how do we know that this is actually doing this? Well, the University of New Mexico did a study where they measured the above-ground biomass. And for us, that's our vegetables that we're growing and the stuff that we put back into compost. Dry biomass per square metre per annum. And what they discovered is that using the systems that we teach, and I'll talk about that in a second, is that actually in year 3, and you can see that's advanced, so this is at an advanced stage of this type of horticultural practice, they actually outcompete in regards to above-ground biomass and even rainforests or swamp and marsh. So it's not an imagination that this is actually making difference. The practices that we teach are measurably mitigating some of the biggest crises we have today and attending to food security at the same time. So what we teach is we call regenerative organic, and sometimes we call it biology first, but actually it's earth-centred systems. So that's essentially every single action taken by the practitioner, the farmer, is designed within the system to heal and exponentially accelerate the well-being of that site. And that site doesn't just include, the soil, biology or the plants, it also includes the farmers. So the systems that actually enable people to flourish and the communities around them. So it's no-till, no digging. We use, one of the big differences is that we do soil tests. So we don't add anything, including compost, which can be used in excess unless the land requires it. And then the next thing that we do is we call polycropping, which is probably a new word for a lot of you today, but essentially that means as many species grown closely together. And why we do that is that each plant photosynthesizes during the day. That's carbon drawdown. That's what we need to be doing, as much photosynthesis as we possibly can. And the plant produces twice as much sap as it needs every day, and then it gifts half of that every single afternoon to the soil system to feed microbes. And when you have different plants, they produce different sap, which fosters different microbes, and then boom, it's like a fire. You start to get massive rehabilitation in those soil systems. And you would have heard that in the dairy and pastoral space where they're doing regenerative practices. In horticulture, it's a much tougher enterprise. And I would have to tell you that the horticulture space, there's very little regenerative thinking happening in that space. And that's, every single one of us is going to eat a vegetable today, and it's either been grown healing or destroying the ecosystem. And we want to fast track through our educational platform to get everyone in New Zealand growing within a system that's actually healing. It's cheap and it is really fun. And in terms of, the young ones who are looking at horticulture as a potential career path, it is really exciting for them. So we teach the Earthworkers course. I'm sure I'm running out of time. Am I running out of time? I'm out of time? Okay, that's normal for me. This is the Earthworkers course. These are the amazing people doing it. These are some of the incredible people around New Zealand who actually have started their own projects. The impact that's coming out of our course is extraordinary. We have 114 alumni already since COVID, and of those we've got about 80 impact projects already in action. We're creating, I just really want to acknowledge Upper Hutt, who actually paid for 5 people to do our course and had 9 participants in their local region doing the course together and having extraordinary results because of numbers. And this is the project I want to leave you with, is that we've modelled what's possible on tiny little plots of land. Now we're hoping to work with the Britomart and develop an urban farm on the top of a roof. And, you know, this roof is not really geared to be able to take a farm. There are not many buildings in New Zealand who have the infrastructure capacity to take the loading of a farm. So one of the reasons that we're doing this is that we want to, you know, fire up another imaginative process within our collective community of let's ensure that every building that's developed from here on in has the capacity to host this type of infrastructure on the top of it. Because look at what it looks like. It's extraordinary. That is what an urban farm that is mitigating climate change, embedding food security and hope and optimism for ourselves, but more importantly for the next generation. Sorry for taking more than my time.